Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. These last couple of weeks have been absolutely crazy. I've posted a couple of these homemade MRE videos and they have gotten so much positive reception. Everybody seems to be having fun and enjoying these. I went from having a channel that was kind of starting to stagnate to now we are over 4,000 subscribers. I can't tell you how excited I am about that. Thank you all so much. But as long as you guys are watching these videos for these homemade MREs, I'll keep making them. I'll shake it up every once in a while, I promise, but for right now, this seems to be what you guys want to see, so we're going to do a couple more of these. The other day I got to think about some of the places that I have not been to do these videos, and I didn't want to start just going back to places I'd already gone to until I'd kind of worked my way through some of the ones that I have not. And one place that I pass every day on my way to work and on my way home is Family Dollar. So I popped into my local Family Dollar and created this. This is the Dad Budget Adventures MRE Menu FD1. This will be our first outing at Family Dollar. Once again, we're not going to go through why I'm doing these. I've done that in other videos, but I do want to cover the rules of what goes into this and what doesn't go into it. Now, of course, the first unofficial rule is wherever I go, I try to source everything for the MRE from that one location. But rule number one is that everything that goes in here must be ready to eat straight out of the package. We can cook it without breaking the rules. We can add a few things to it, but you have to be able to eat it straight out of the package if it comes to that. That's the whole idea behind the term MRE, or meals ready to eat. The only exception to that rule is if I choose a powdered drink or coffee or tea or something that needs to be mixed with water. Rule number two is that every item in here must have at least a 1-year shelf life from the time of purchase. The reason for that being that when I put it in here, if this thing goes onto a shelf and spends the next year there, when I do get around to eat it, I want to know that the things that are in it were as fresh as possible when they were first packaged. And finally, rule number 3 is that the menu must be an entree, a side, a walking around snack, a dessert, and a beverage. Now that the rules are there, let's tear into this and see what is in the menu FD1 of my homemade MREs. So going into this, I'll say that this was a bit of a struggle. The last couple that I've done were surprisingly easy to do. This one was not so easy. There's something about Family Dollar and its corporate structure that really doesn't lend to being able to get all of the things that I wanted for the MRE, plus staying within the rules, especially when it came to expiration dates. Now, yes, I could have gone in and I could have made an MRE that if I was going out this weekend, knew I was packing it for a trip or something like that, it would have been fine. But for the specific rules here, I had a hard time with this one. A lot of people confuse Family Dollar and Dollar General. They are different companies. Some people think they're owned by the same people. They're not. Family Dollar is owned by the same people that own Dollar Tree. That was a recent acquisition. And the biggest difference in the corporate structure is that with Dollar General, most of their items are about $2 to $10. With Family Dollar, however, their price structure tries to stay between about $2 and $5. So you're getting cheaper items or lower end items and not as much of a selection as you would get if you went to, say, Dollar General. So that's one of the reasons why I struggled a little bit with this, was that because of the way they're set up, it made it hard for me to find everything that I needed. But I managed to do it. I'm not as pleased with the outcome here. This one ends up being a lot more generic than I'd hoped for. I've had a lot of fun with making these MREs that are very different, but this one's a little more generic. You're gonna recognize some things in here, and it's not really what I would have chosen had I had other choices. Keep that in mind as you fire off your comments that I didn't have a whole lot of choices. For our entree, I went with this Hormel Completes chicken Alfredo meat. This is a full pasta sauce meat, all included in this little package that's very much like what you would find in a traditional MRE. While it's not the most exotic thing in the world, it is what you might expect if you were opening something like a military or a humanitarian MRE. We're gonna open this thing up, and as we have been doing recently, because it takes a little bit to cook, we're gonna go ahead and get this entree going so that we can eat lunch. And of course, as in the last few videos, we're gonna feature the Barrow Cook flameless cooker. This thing is so cool, and it always gets comments whenever I use it in these videos. And also, just like the last couple videos, there will be a link in the description box below where you can go. It's an affiliate link where you can go to Amazon and buy one of these for yourself if you feel like doing so. So let's get this thing open. Let's get lunch rolling. All right, so I didn't have the camera rolling while I was getting that going, but you guys have seen this a time or two, so nothing should surprise you. For the entree preparation, I'm just gonna drop this in here. And then I'm gonna poke it a couple times so we get some good airflow. And as soon as this gets going, there it is. Now that that's cooking, next item up is our side. This was a hard one to find. I went through chips, crackers, jerky, all kinds of things, trying to find just the right thing for this. And so much stuff was either almost out of date or had been out of date for a couple of months that I had a really hard time with this. And what I ended up going with was these Cheez-Its. Cheddar Jack Cheez-It, good old-fashioned square crackers. But for our purposes, it's gonna do just fine. Our next item is our walking around snack. This was another thing I had a hard time with. Once again, I looked for things like trail mix, mixed nuts, things like that. Nothing had any kind of a decent shelf life to it. So what I went with was these banana crisps. These are freeze-dried bananas. I absolutely love freeze-dried bananas, so this is going to be a win for me in one way or another. And the purpose of the walking around snack, of course, is that after lunch, if you want to put something in your pocket to take with you for the next part of whatever your journey is, you'll have a little something extra to sustain you for just a little bit longer. Our next item is our beverage. I got this Cafe Bustelo instant coffee. I've never had this product before. I've seen it everywhere. People seem to love this stuff. Never tried it, so we're gonna try it today. This is an instant coffee pack. It doesn't have anything else in it. There's no sugar, no cream. So I also packed some sweetener and some creamer in with this MRE that did not come from Family Dollar. Don't come after me. But we're gonna go ahead and get this going. I've got some hot water in my little Arctic mug here, so we're gonna get this going. So if you ever wondered about instant coffee, what this is, it's freeze-dried coffee. A lot of people think it's something to do with the grounds, but it's not. What they'll do is they'll brew up a bunch of coffee, pour it onto freeze-drying trays, throw it into the freeze dryer, and they'll pull all the moisture out through the freeze-drying process. They'll take the remaining coffee-flavored bits, pulverize them down into a powder, and there you have this. And really all it is something where you add a little bit of water to reconstitute that coffee, and you have a cup of coffee that was already made once before. So let's pour that up. It smells nice. This is our one exotic item in here, imported coffee. Or at least it has an imported name. And this time I remembered to pack my accessory kit with a spork and a napkin and a coffee stir, so I can use this for its intended purpose. And with that done, we have one more item to look at. Our last item is good old-fashioned Reese's Pieces. Dessert was another thing I had a really hard time finding, so we ended up going with the chocolate candies. And this particular chocolate candy, because once again, everything else had too short of a shelf life. This was the one thing I could find that had the proper shelf life and that met the other parameters. All right, so let's check on our entree real quick. Lunch is cooking away. Let's go ahead and start trying our other stuff. I mean, this seems a little pointless here to do this, but I mean, you never know. Cheez-Its are one of those things that I feel like most people kind of love them. Kids eat them up, even grown-ups. My dad is a huge Cheez-Its fan. So which is your favorite, Cheez-Its or Cheese Nips? Leave me a comment down below and tell me. Let them duke it out in the comment section. I haven't tried the Cheddar Jack ones. These have a little bit more flavor to them than the regular ones do. A little bit more garlicky, I think. That's what I'm picking up. But those are good. I mean, they're Cheez-Its. Let's wash down the Cheez-Its with a little bit of this coffee. Cafe Bustelo, is that how it's pronounced? If you know, tell me about it. It's a very different flavored coffee. I'm not really sure what that note is that I'm picking up. It's got a very nutty kind of flavor to it. It's a little bit like chock full of nuts in its flavor palette, but maybe a little sharper. But it's not bad for an instant coffee. I mean, just to throw in this MRE and have something with a little bit of caffeine and a little bit of that coffee pick-me-up flavor, that's not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't pour it out. Let's dive into these banana crisps and see crisps. Let's dive into these banana crisps. See how they are. They're very light, ridiculously light. These are good, but they're not the best freeze-dried bananas I've ever had. There's an odd flavor in there. It's not just banana, and I'm sure it's probably a preservative or something like that that's added to these. They're not terrible, but there is an extra flavor there that's just slightly off-putting. Not enough so that I won't eat them, though. And as usual, don't forget, when we're visiting the great outdoors, let's leave it outdoorsy. Let's haul our garbage out. God, if there's any message that gets across to people in these videos, I hope that you'll think twice about just leaving your garbage behind. I've camped in so many places that people just leave their junk because for whatever reason it's too difficult for them to haul it out. Don't be that guy. Take your garbage with you. All right, so I think our entree has had plenty of time to cook. Let's go break into that and let's have lunch. All right, so since this one already has its own little bowl with it, I took it out of the barrel cook. There's no sense in messing that up or doing anything extra with that when we can just eat it out of this container, but I'm going to use the little neoprene sleeve to hold it so I don't burn my hand. And yes, the barrel cook does get things hot enough that they will burn you if you're not careful. It can be inconsistent if you don't stir it a little bit or if you don't cook it for long enough, but for the most part it's always done a good job of cooking everything. Do a little mixy here. It's all stirred around. Doesn't look bad. It's very saucy, which you'll usually encounter with meals like this. Be sure to get down on the bottom of it because that's where most of the heat goes. And let's give this a taste. It smells good. It smells like chicken Alfredo. It's good. It's not great. It's not bad. And of course, as always, you have to keep things in perspective. If you're camping, hiking, or you're involved in a disaster and you're relying on this as your food source, this is going to be gourmet. It could definitely be a lot worse. It has a little bit of that packaged taste that you get with, especially with chicken. I think that's probably why it has so much sauce, to distract from that a little bit, but it's far from terrible. Let me know if you've ever tried this. Leave me a comment and tell me if you've ever tried these Hormel meals and which one is your favorite. They've got some really neat ones. There's like a roast beef with sliced potatoes. There's a meatloaf or Salisbury steak and some other things. So there's a lot of good options out there. This is really not a bad option when it comes to having an MRE. You can do worse than this for sure. It's a decent enough sized portion. I mean, if you're a really big guy, this is going to be enough to make you mad, but for an average person, this is going to be sufficient, especially if you pair it with other things. I'm going to finish this off real quick, come back, check out that dessert, have another sip of coffee. We'll wrap this one up. And of course, last but not least, that leaves our Reese's Pieces. They look good. They look fresh. They're not all funky looking or busted up. E.T. would approve. That's it for this episode of my homemade MRE from Family Dollar. Workmen are coming over here and starting up chainsaws, so it's good timing. We're going to close this out. If you enjoyed this video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave me some comments, tell me all about it, and tell me where you think I should go next for one of my homemade MREs. And until the next one, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. We'll see you next time.